This is the brief on China. So, what is China, really? Well, you've got this ancient civilization that's completely reinvented itself. It's now the world's second largest economy, and it's this incredible mix of deep, old traditions and hyper-modern industrial power. First, let's talk about its geography. And believe it or not, its time. I mean, it's the third largest country on the planet, sharing borders with 14 nations. But get this, the country physically covers 5 time zones, but the government? It enforces just one official time for everyone. Beijing time. Just one. Second, this idea of centralized control totally spills over into their economy. They've shifted from being an agriculture-based economy to an absolute powerhouse of industry. And we're not just talking about being the world's factory anymore. Nope, they're leading the way in high-tech exports, like EVs and 5G, all connected by the world's largest high-speed rail network. And finally, let's touch on its culture and politics. You're looking at over 4,000 years of continuous history. This is where we got things like paper and the compass. But today, all that heritage is managed by the very strict, authoritarian Chinese Communist Party. It's a real contrast, you know? You've got these cultural wonders like the Great Wall on one side, and this tight political control on the other. So to wrap it up, China is a massive, single-time zone superpower defined by its rapid modernization, authoritarian governance, and millennia of cultural influence. If you really want to understand the global stage, you have to look beyond the headlines and grasp the sheer scale of this Eastern giant.
When you think of China, what pops into your head? Is it the Great Wall winding its way across misty mountains? Or maybe the buzz of a city that looks like it's straight out of the future? Well, it's a place where ancient civilization and massive global influence really collide. So let's dive into the story of a modern superpower that has 4,000 years of history under its belt.
First things first, let's get a handle on its power today. Right now, China is the world's second largest economy. It's a total titan of global trade and finance, and its moves affect markets and supply chains, well, pretty much everywhere.
For decades, it's been known as the world's factory. I mean, think about it. The phone in your hand, the clothes you're wearing, chances are a big chunk of it was made in China. That's a testament to its unbelievable industrial power.
But hey, it's not just about making stuff anymore. Not by a long shot. China is shifting gears to become a high-tech powerhouse. They're pushing the envelope in AI, rolling out 5G like nobody's business, building the world's biggest high-speed rail system, and they're a massive leader in renewable energy. And this brings us to the big question, right? We see the what, all the economic and tech muscle. But how did this happen? How do you connect 4,000 years of history to this 21st century reality? To figure that out, we need to look under the hood at what really makes China tick. So let's start with the engine itself, the people who fuel the nation and the one-of-a-kind political structure that steers the ship. The scale is just mind-boggling. We're talking about 1.4 billion people. That makes China the second most populous country on the planet, right behind India. This huge population is both a colossal workforce and a gigantic market all on its own. And this massive population is knit together by some really deep-seated cultural values that act like a social glue. There's this intense focus on hard work, a profound respect for family and elders, and a huge emphasis on education. It creates this super competitive culture that helps fuel the country's drive. Now, looking at the economic engine, you might think it's all controlled by the state. But the reality is a little more complex. Sure, state-owned companies are a big deal, but it's the private sector that's really the main driver, kicking in about 60% of the country's GDP. It's this fascinating blend of state direction and private get-up-and-go. So to understand how this whole engine is steered, you have to get the political system. China operates under what's called an authoritarian system. This means the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, holds the ultimate power. It gives the state a huge amount of control over the country, and individual political freedoms are, well, limited. But there's a really interesting twist to this centralized rule. It's the one country, two systems idea, which is what's up with Hong Kong and Macau. Even though they're part of China, they get to keep their own laws, their own money, and a whole lot of autonomy. It's a totally unique setup within the nation. Okay, so we've looked at the engine. Now let's talk about the foundation it was all built on, the land itself. This next part of our explainer digs into the vast and incredibly diverse geography that has really shaped China's story. And get this, here's a wild fact for you. Geographically, China stretches across 5 time zones, just like the continental US. But officially, the entire country runs on just one, Beijing time. Can you imagine living in the far west where the sun might not rise until 10 in the morning? Crazy. This enormous country is really like a collection of different worlds smashed together. Over in the east, you've got these lush, fertile plains where most people live. It's the agricultural heartland. Head west, and you're in the dry, sprawling deserts of Xinjiang and Mongolia. Then you've got the impossibly high Tibetan Plateau, the steep Himalayan valleys, and the unique yellow soil of the Loess Plateau. This incredible variety has dictated everything from where people live to what they do for a living.
And this idea of extremes is perfectly captured by the Yellow River. On the one hand, it's called the cradle of Chinese civilization. Its fertile valley is where the very first dynasties popped up. But it's also known as China's sorrow because of its long, tragic history of devastating floods. It's a source of life, and sometimes a source of incredible destruction.
Which brings us to our final layer, the historical blueprint. Because honestly, to really get modern China, you have to hear the echoes of its 4,000-year-old past.
Okay, let's do a super quick fly-through of 4,000 years. You had early dynasties like the Shang and Zhao that laid the groundwork. Then the Qin dynasty unified China and got started on the Great Wall. The Han dynasty was a golden age that opened the Silk Road. Later, the Tang and Song dynasties gave us awesome inventions like printing and the compass. And finally, after the last imperial dynasty, the Qing fell. The People's Republic of China was born in 1949.
Now that period leading up to 1949 is absolutely crucial. It's known as the Century of Humiliation. This was a time when China was carved up and weakened by foreign powers and was torn apart by internal conflict. That experience is burned into the country's collective memory, and you can't understand China's intense modern drive for strength and respect without understanding it.
So how does all this stuff, the people, the geography, the long history, come together? Well, you see it in China's incredibly vibrant cultural expression.
The culture is just bursting with life in its festivals. You've got the Spring Festival, or Chinese New Year, which triggers the largest human migration on Earth every year as families travel to be together. Then there's the high-energy Dragon Boat Festival races, the calm beauty of the Mid-Autumn Festival, and the quiet respect of the Qingming Festival for honoring ancestors.
You see dragons all over the place in these celebrations, and there's a good reason for that. In Chinese culture, the dragon is a huge deal. But here's the thing. Unlike in the West, it's not some scary monster to be slain. It's a divine creature that symbolizes power, wisdom, and good luck. In fact, Chinese people often proudly call themselves descendants of the dragon. And of course, we have to talk about the food. The country's massive size means the food is incredibly diverse. From the crispy skin of Peking duck up in the north, to the delicate little bites of dim sum down south, and the fiery mapo tofu from Sichuan province, Chinese food is basically a world tour on a single menu. And finally, let's look at the symbols, the landmarks that represent China to the whole world. A mix of the ancient and the seriously modern.
You've got timeless wonders like the Great Wall and the mind-blowing Terracotta Army. But then you also have these incredible natural marvels like Zhangjiajie, which, fun fact, inspired the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. And then, bam, the gleaming futuristic skyline of Shanghai. It's this perfect snapshot of ancient legacy and modern ambition.
So what you end up with is this amazing fusion, a nation built on thousands of years of tradition that is now rocketing towards the future with incredible ambition. It's this very pull between its ancient soul and its futuristic dreams that makes China one of the most fascinating stories of our time. And it leaves us with the big question: what will its next chapter be?